Pink Pig was a car that was designed, it was one race. It was the 1971 Le Mans 24-hour race. And what happened was the designers at Porsche got a little carried away. And with their aerodynamicists, they created this wide body, stub-nosed vehicle that Martini Rossi was the sponsor at the time. You can see the car behind it. And they looked at this car and said, my God, the snout looks like a pig. This is the ugliest car we've ever seen. We're not going to put our Martini Rice stripes on this car. And so Porsche was like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? We got to do something here. So one of their designers, the last minute, came up, since everybody said it had a snout nose like a pig, he came up with a design that was flesh tone with all the stripes and all of the actual parts of a pig on the car, and everyone dubbed it the Pink Pig. Well, it raced one race and became one of those most iconic cars ever. And it was because it was so unusual. And for me, that's what designing cars is all about, trying to come up with something no one's ever seen that is exciting. It was hilarious. So what I had got to do with this car was, in the early 90s, it came here to America to be displayed, and it got damaged and needed to be repaired. So I took and I went along and I traced out every single letter on the entire vehicle, and I hand cut the stuff and did it and painted it the way it needed to be done. But then I saved the decals that I had made, all the stuff, and put it on my very first computer, my 1990 386 computer, and I made my own font pattern. Okay, so since then, I started doing these graphics on all these modern race cars. And as time went along, I was able to continue to do everything by hand. For the first 10 years, everything that I did in vinyl was all hand cut and done like that. And it all stems from this Pink Pig that I had saw. So all of these designs that you're seeing throughout the time have become iconic cars that people recognize when they see it. And the cool thing is it all stems from just trying to create something that hasn't been done. And so in the very beginning, this stuff like this was all hand cut. I just took vinyl and cut it. Did this car restoration of this car for the Rush movie. This car right here has the stripes on it for Alex Job. And so all of these cars were done, but at the same time I was doing these cars, I was also doing restorations of cars, starting back in 1984. And what I would do is I would take all my tracings and I would get all my color comps and I would get everything exactly the way it needed to be, so that I could go back and I could reproduce, you know, these cars exactly the way they were. And in the old days, unlike today, a lot of stuff was hand painted. So someone would come to the car and they would paint a logo or something, and it would be not exactly the same as you would see on the advertisements. So it was very important when you were restoring cars to be able to do them exactly the way they had been done originally on the car. But so anyway, as you can see, there's quite a few here. I didn't realize there was going to be so many here. I get carried away. I've been blessed with able to do a few thousand of them over the years. Wow. I've been doing it for 35 years, and also the restorations of the cars. This particular car, it never raced, and Porsche loved it so much that they made a model of it, even though it never raced. And of course, this is the famous Champion car. Dave Mirage says to me, he says, I don't care what the car looks like, I just want it to be photographed more than any other car. I said, well, that's easy, we'll make it reflective. So I just took street sign, reflective vinyl, and I just cut out all the silhouette to look like a car, and of course, I'm sure it has been photographed more than any other car. And this is going into the restorations of doing the restorations of the cars. All these cars have been,
Can you slow it down?
No, sorry. anyway, I did all these as restorations, and what was so nice on so many of them was the fact that it was right after the car had raced, a lot of them. And so I was the first person, so I could make sure all the logos and all the colors and everything were exactly the way they should be. Now, the reason I'm doing all this is because what happened was in 2010, there was a gentleman in a Chicago dealership who was trying to sell Caymans, and they weren't selling very well. And he decided that he was going to do a inter-series street racing where he would take and turn those Caymans into old-fashioned looking race cars. And then the person off the street could buy the car, turn it into whatever design they like, and then they could race. They could drive it on the street, but they could also take it to the races and race it in an inter-series series. And I heard about it, and I called the gentleman, and he said, "No, I'm sorry, we already have someone to do it." And I thought, well, goodness, I've got every single design ever done. I've done all the restorations of all these cars. And so I thought that was it. About a week later, I get a phone call from a friend of mine who said that they just bought one of those cars, and I was the only one to do the graphics on his car. So he told them I was doing the graphics, and for me to go up there and do them.